Hey TDF family, it's Candy, one of your TDF admins, and I'm actually joining you this week with this week's announcements. All right, but before I go any further, before I get into the meat and potatoes, all right, I just want to take a moment to pause and welcome all of our new members, whether it is that you are joining with us live or if you're catching the replay. Thank you so much for trusting us on this journey. And if you are returning, welcome back. All right. Thank you for continuing to tune into these live calls each day and trusting us on your growth and your process. All right. But before I go any further, I do have a housekeeping rule for you, especially for new members. If it is where you do have anything that is a bit sensitive or you have a personal question that you do want to ask, we do ask that you do not put it in the chat of this live call because anything that is put in the chat, unfortunately, we cannot take it down. All right, so if it is anything that is a bit more sensitive, please email us at tdftribe@gmail.com and one of our admin team members will get back to you. Okay, so let's get into the normal flow of things. On Mondays and Tuesdays, we do have sessions with Coach B, and we do know that this Tuesday, July 7th, is our public session day. So take a moment for me, pause for a second, and send this live to your group chat. All right, share it with your group chat, share it with your family members, share it with somebody on social media. Just share this live and invite them to our live public session. All right, and then you do know on Wednesdays we do have our special guest that comes in and expound on the conversations that Coach B has had with us on the Mondays and Tuesdays. And then Thursdays are our Heart Talks replays for our Inner Circle members. So if you are not a part of the Inner Circle, you can definitely upgrade at any time to catch the Heart Talk replays. And then on Fridays, we do have our live Q&As. This is where Coach B will answer any question that you have. And trust me when I say any question, it does not have to be on the topics that we have been discussing. All right, so definitely if you are interested, this is another thing that is for our inner circle members, exclusive to our inner circle members. All right, okay, so I do have to let you guys know that this month of July we will not be having any after darks. However, if you are interested in hosting an After Dark event for August when we do resume, please email us at tdftribe@gmail.com and one of our admin team members will definitely get back to you. As well as we do have our ambassador applications open again. Okay, so if it is where you are interested in becoming a part of the ambassador team, please fill out the application. One, you will find it in the Patreon, or you can also email us at tdftribe@gmail.com. Okay, you guys, and remember that we are in the midst of our memberthon. We are trying to get to 100 new members by August 27th. So please share the Daily Fix with as many people that you would like. Let them know what the Daily Fix has been doing for you over the past few years. We want to expound this community. So I will put the discount code here for you. It's going to be 50% off of their first month within the Daily Fix. So let them know. Let them know. I will put the discount code here for you. Again, that is part of our memberthon, and that goes until August 27th, you guys. So invite, spread the word. Okay, 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 okay. This now is my favorite announcement because we are officially a few days away from Men's Week. Officially a few days away from Men's Week. July 13th through the 17th is our Men's Week, and you do know that we have this yearly, okay? But this year in particular, we are actually having evening sessions from Monday through Friday, will all be evening sessions, all right? So please invite all the men in your life. And yes, ladies, you can definitely tune into the live. You can join us live each and every night. But please, please, please bring a man with you. Whether it be somebody, however, however way you took that, just bring a man with you. You can bring your brother. You can bring your church brother. You can bring your significant other. Bring a man with you on this live next week from the 13th through the 17th. Okay, you guys? All right. And do know that July 29th, we do have our Inside the Tribe returning. We had our first session last month in June, and we are returning it again this month, July 29th. So if you are interested in sharing your story and how it has been for you since you have joined the Daily Fix, please email us at tdftribe@gmail.com if you want to be one of the live guests on that call, July 29th. Okay? All right. One more thing for you guys. We do have our retreat that is coming up in 2027. Now, we do only have approximately 5 slots left, I believe. And even though this is January of 2027, we do ask that if you are interested in being a part of the retreat, that you definitely go to the website and fill out that information as soon as possible. Okay, and last but certainly not least, if you are in need of additional support, we do have our in house therapist, Tommy Burrell. All right, and Tommy does host individual and group sessions. Okay, so if it is where you are not a part of the inner circle where you do have access to Coach B's calendar, or better yet, even if it is where you are a part of the inner circle and you do have access to Coach B's calendar, but you do need that additional support, please do not hesitate to reach out to Tommy. All right, that is what he's here for. That is why he's a part of this community, because we do know that some of these sessions do unearth a lot of things that is difficult to deal with on your own. Okay, so you can reach Tommy at tburrellcounseling.com. Again, that is tburrellcounseling.com. And as I stated, he does offer individual and group sessions. All right, so you guys, thank you so much for continuing to show up for yourselves. Thank you so much for continuing to invest in yourself. And thank you so much for continuing to grow with the Daily Fix. All right, Coach B, take it.
Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Daily Fix. Thank you, Candy, for recording the announcements for us. I appreciate it because y'all know I barely ever remember the announcements. So if you guys are live with me this morning, good morning. I'm glad that you are here. Today is our live session in the Daily Fix, okay? So if you're here today and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? This is what happens every morning in the Daily Fix in my private community. To join the Daily Fix, go to thedailyfix.co. You can go to the website, click the link in my bio. But in the Daily Fix, we are covering different topics every morning, all geared to help you become the better version of yourself. And today is absolutely no different. We're going to have an amazing session because I'm excited to talk about the topic that we're going to talk about today. So I hope you're somewhere where you can take notes. And if you can't take notes, don't worry, this stream will be live on my YouTube after the session so that if you want to go back, rewatch, take notes from there, that's perfectly fine. Okay. So in the chat, everybody sound off. Tell me where you're from. What side of the world are you joining from? Where are you joining me this morning? Some of you it's going to be nighttime, depending on where you are. Okay, very good. Okay, now let me my notes, my notes, my notes, my notes. I'm gonna hop in. And as we join, we'll make sure that you guys have the links to join the Daily Fix. If you ever want to be a part of if you ever want to get on my individual calendar, my calendar for individual sessions, then join the Daily Fix in the inner circle and you will get access to my live calendar to schedule a one-on-one with me. Okay, okay, I see y'all, Jersey, Arkansas, Orlando, Atlanta, Mississippi. Okay, joining from South Africa. Very good. Okay. So, for all of my TDF tribe members, you guys know the month of July, we've dedicated the month to talking about the science of connection. All right. How do we connect with one another? Really trying to end the whole conversation of the different gender wars, right? Trying to figure out online, there's always so much information that's pulling us apart. There's a lot of videos that give us reasons to not want to be connected to people, period. Much less the opposite sex. I mean, we just want to be by ourselves in a corner, okay? And so because there's so much information that's pulling us apart, my contribution my contribution to this pandemic epidemic is to give us information that actually brings us back together. So we've been having some really challenging conversations. I know last week our conversations were geared towards helping you see how sometimes we can be the author of our own loneliness. Sometimes we can be the author of our own disconnect. And so this week, I'm moving out of self and I'm moving into the relationship with others. All right. So if you guys are ready, put ready in the chat, ready in the chat, ready in the chat. Mm-mm-mm. Ready in the chat, ready in the chat. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. So this morning, I want to talk about what we wish the other one knew, right? What we wish each other knew. Um, for those of you who don't know, so when I was working on the inpatient trauma unit for 4.5, almost 5 years, I worked only with men. Okay, only with men. And I actually loved it. I love working with men. Just because my style, I think my style sometimes goes over a lot better with my guys. But in that time frame of working only with men, when I tell you my eyes were opened, because before then I think I saw a lot of issues from a woman's perspective. I saw a lot of issues from the women who raised me perspective, and I never really got to go behind the veil until I operated in that position. And when I say behind the veil, what I'm saying is the inner thoughts behind a lot of the behaviors that you see in relationships with the men that we love and care about. And so it's easy when you're on the outside looking in to come up with our own ideas about what we think these things mean, their behavior, their thoughts, how they operate. And first and foremost, I will tell you, walking behind the veil did nothing but humanize the man. I think a lot of times we see men as, you know, things, right? And listen, men see women as things, but we see them as far as what they can provide or what they can do or how they show up for us. Very rarely do we see them as human, right? And so when I was able to humanize um, men in general, I was able to see that one, a lot of the same things that, women express, women go through, they go through the exact same thing. We just all express it a little bit different. And so I learned that a lot of the breakdowns between men and women, and not just men and women, any relationship, a lot of the breakdowns, it's not because there's a lack of love or a lack of attraction or a lack of wanting to be together. Many times we don't know how to be together. And we're trying to have conversations, and the conversations are not translating. So many times when I'm meeting with them and I'm meeting with their wives and their girlfriends, and we're talking, I realize that I just became a translator. That he would say one thing, she would say another, and then I would translate to each other what the other person was trying to say. Right? And so I realized it's a lot of the breakdowns are not that we don't want to be in connection. We don't know how to be in connection. And so my goal today is to kind of pull back some of the messages that we're trying to get over to one another, but we just can't hear. And I'll also talk about why we can't hear the messages. Okay. Have you guys ever left a conversation and you're like, and that person walked out and was like, you know what? You just don't want to be with me anymore. You're like, that's not what I meant. That's not what I was trying to say, right? You leave a conversation and you don't feel like y'all got anywhere. They completely misinterpreted what you were trying to say or what you were trying to accomplish. You don't feel understood. You don't feel heard. I know I'm not the only person who walked out of the conversation and was like, that did not go the way I thought it was going to go. Right? That happens a lot in our relationships. Most times we assume that we are communicating when really all we're doing is emoting. All right. Many times we assume we're communicating when all we're doing is emoting, meaning I'm giving you my emotion. I'm not actually communicating. All right. Okay. And I will also say, because if you are not self-aware, if you're in a relationship and you don't know how to communicate what you need, okay, if you don't know how to identify what you need, you can't communicate what you need. So your communication is all about how you feel, and it's never about what you actually need to resolve the issue. Right? I'm not going to get sidetracked because I got a lot to cover today. But that is a caveat. If you don't know how to identify your own needs, you won't know how to communicate that in a relationship, and then all of your communication is just you giving your emotions. All right. So here's the thing that I want you guys to understand is that anytime you are in a relationship, and again, we're talking about romantic relationships today, but this can relate to many other relationships. But anytime you are in a relationship, I need you guys to understand that there are two conversations happening at the same time. Not one, not two. I mean, well, two. The first conversation is the one that's happening with our words, right? So that's when we say, "Hey, let's talk about this. Let's sit down. Let's come up with come up with a resolution," right? So the first conversation is happening with our words. The second conversation is what's happening underneath the words. Okay. To be in a healthy relationship, I have to understand how to have both of those conversations many times at the same time. Right. One of the biggest mistakes that we make in relationships is that we assume that someone's behavior is the problem. So if I called you and you didn't answer the phone, our conversation now becomes about me reaching out to you and you not answering the phone, you being unavailable. So now our conversation is about whether or not you answer the phone and how available you are to me. Does that mean you love me? Yes or no? Right? But here's what I want you guys to take away. Most behavior in any relationship is someone's attempt to solve a problem. All right. Very few people wake up and say, you know what, today I'm going to be emotionally distant. Today I'm going to be defensive when they ask me what's wrong. Today I'm going to shut everybody out and not be available. Very few people wake up and say, I'm going to purposely cause harm to the people that I love in my relationship, or I'm going to purposely neglect the people that I love in my relationship. Those behaviors at some point in life, they allowed me to survive difficult situations, right? I think the most common one is when people withdraw or retreat. Most of us learn that when things become overwhelming, when things get hard, if we just back away, I can protect myself. So we protect ourselves by becoming avoidant. We protect ourselves by withdrawing. And I can, if I withdraw, then I don't have to worry about rejection. If I would, oh, I forgot that was on. I'm sorry, y'all. I have my heater on. Oh, okay. I forgot that you can hear the heater through my microphone. Okay, that should be better. Okay, but people withdraw because they don't want to experience rejection. They withdraw because they don't want to have conflict, right? Or you go into people pleasing to have conflict, right? You go into perfectionism so that people don't criticize you or judge you harshly. We go into controlling behaviors when I'm afraid that I may lose sight of this relationship, so try to control it, right? Or I may start using humor to try to protect myself from being vulnerable. These are all behaviors that we learn to survive. And then we go into a relationship, and do you think those behaviors just go away? Absolutely not. What I want you to take away is that every behavior that you exhibit and your partner exhibits in a relationship is an attempt to solve a problem. Our response is normally to say, why are they like this? Right? Instead of asking, why are they like this? I want to change that question. I want you guys to start asking, what is this behavior trying to help them survive? Right? So if you are using humor to escape vulnerability, why is vulnerability a scary thing for you? Okay? That's what we want to start seeing people as, not just what they say or what they do, but what's underneath what they're saying and what they're doing. That's what we have to open our minds up to see. The thing about it is that in relationship, most of us keep responding to the ways in which ourselves and our partners try to protect themselves in relationships. This is where we get stuck. We're always reacting to somebody else's armor. We never notice that they're wounded. We never notice that they have issues that they're struggling with. And sometimes we do notice, and we just don't know how to deal with it. We're just like, I don't, I'm not a therapist. I don't know what to do with that. Right? But I think of this as matching fire with fire. That if you raise your voice, I'm gonna raise my voice too. If you hit below the belt, I'm gonna hit below the belt too. Right? And so that's typically the cycle that a lot of couples get stuck in, that because we don't know how to identify our needs, we don't know how to communicate our pain, we're just reacting. We're emotionally reacting constantly to one another. And our whole relationship now becomes this dance where we're balancing when we're okay, when we're not okay, when we're okay, when we're not okay. Right? We're constantly reacting to the ways in which our partner is protecting themselves and the ways in which we are trying to protect ourselves. And at the end of that road, it ain't nothing but disappointment. All right. But I want you guys to hear it. I'm going to say it again. All of these protective behaviors are really emotional translations. The protective behavior is me trying to protect myself from feeling something or experiencing something, and there's a behavior that follows. That is not an excuse, but I'm trying to help you understand the context of why people react and respond the way that they do. One, so that you are less triggered by what they do. When you understand that someone's reaction is about their own inner world, then you are less offended when people react and respond a certain way. When I'm less offended, guess what? I can be more compassionate. When I'm less offended, I have more patience. When I'm less offended, I have the ability to communicate intellectually. So you being less triggered and less offended in your relationships keeps you in the driving seat instead of the emotional reaction seat. That's the goal. So the goal is not to excuse bad behavior or give them an out. The goal is for me to understand the behavior on another level so that I can be more strategic. I have more options about how I want to respond to them. Okay? Now let's get into some of the messages, right? Or some of the behaviors. I want to translate some of the behaviors that we see in relationships. If this is helping you so far in the chat, let me know. Is this helpful for you? Okay, are we having some connection issues? I know it's July and everybody's outside. Everybody's outside. Okay, so there may be some connection issues happening. Okay, so let's talk about some translations. This is where we slow down and we try to take a breath. Okay. These are some of the things that we will see or hear from the people that we love, and we misunderstand them because we don't know how to interpret these behaviors. Okay. So the first one, what people I will say how we phrase it is that this is what we wish people knew, right? So when we become quiet, okay? So when my partner becomes quiet, they become withdrawn, they're not as talkative, okay? Your partner becoming quiet doesn't always mean that they are upset with you, okay? Sometimes it's them trying to make sense of what they're feeling before they say or do something that they may regret. Sometimes they don't have the words yet. Sometimes they don't have their own explanation, right? Sometimes they're too emotionally overwhelmed to respond, right? And sometimes in those moments when they become quiet, that they need your presence more than they need your questions. All right. Now that that point in particular are for all of my people who have very anxious ways of dealing with conflict. That when conflict happens in a relationship, you become overwhelmed with trying to solve the conflict so that you guys can get back to being happy and in love, right? So you perceive that my partner going quiet is them withdrawing from me. Your response is to lean in. And I can tell you, I am someone, if I'm quiet, don't lean in until I tell you I'm ready for the lean in. Right? Because most times when I'm quiet, I am doing my own internal processing. I'm trying to understand how I feel. I'm trying to understand, what is my need. I'm trying to understand myself before I present those issues to you. So if I'm processing and you come in with, why are you so quiet? Can we just talk about it? Clearly, you're mad at me. Are you mad because I didn't call you back? Well, can we just talk about it? All of those questions creates pressure when I'm not ready. And when we talk about emotions, if I'm emotionally overwhelmed and you're coming in with all these questions, all you're doing is piquing my emotions, right? You're adding fuel to the fire of my emotions. You're not helping the situation. So the first misinterpretation is that we think that when our partners go quiet, it must means that something's wrong or they're upset with me, right? We want to depersonalize their quietness. And instead of offering solutions, we want to offer our presence. Maybe it's not time to problem solve. Maybe we just need to be here for one another. Okay. The second, when I ask for reassurance, I'm not asking because I am dependent upon you. All right. Now, this is a big gender breakdown. And again, men and women do this, right? What I have seen is that one partner can ask for reassurance, right? And they're asking for reassurance where I want to make sure that we're on the same page in the relationship. I want to make sure that we're both committed. I want to make sure that we're both, feel good about being together, right? And so you can reach a place where you're asking for reassurance, and your partner can take that as, why are you asking this of me, right? I think years ago was a video where a guy was like, why does she ask me, do I love her? Like, of course I love you. I'm here, I'm paying bills, I'm with the family. Why do you have to ask me, do I love you, right? And he was annoyed by his partner's request for reassurance. Okay, here's the thing about reassurance. People think that reassurance means that I am being dependent upon my partner to feel a certain type of way. What we miss is that in relationship with our partners, sometimes we're asking for reassurance because the reassurance leads to connection that helps me calm my nervous system. Sometimes asking for reassurance is not your partner being insecure. Sometimes it's me being reminded that we are okay, right? Reassurance is a sign of a healthy relationship. The ability to give reassurance is a sign of a healthy relationship, right? So when your partner asks for reassurance, it's not that they are trying to be dependent upon you, but sometimes we need a check in. And depending on what type of partner you have, what their history is, there will be times where your partner needs check ins. Hey, are we cool? Do you still love me? Am I still attractive to you? We want that feedback because that feedback helps me calm my own internal world. Okay. The next misinterpretation, all right? When I become defensive, okay, what you see is a fear of exposure. Okay. When our partners become defensive in relationships, most times they are afraid of something being exposed. Okay. Because most people become defensive in relationships when we're receiving feedback. So when you say, hey, you haven't bought me flowers in, a month of Sundays. Hey, you didn't come in on time, whatever the feedback is. Underneath the the resistance and the defensiveness is a fear of being exposed as I'm not enough for you, I'm disappointing you, I'm failing you in this way, in some way, right? So defensiveness is another way that we protect ourselves. It's not necessarily that we're trying to disrespect or we're trying to harm, or be difficult in any way. But the truth is that for a lot of people, receiving feedback feels like criticism. Again, going back to childhood, if you know that your partner was raised by very critical parents, if you know that your partner has a very harsh view of themselves, if you know that your partner is very hard on themselves, when you give them criticism, it's like a punch in the face. It's like, I'm trying to be everything I can to be to you. Right. And so many times the defensiveness that we see from our partner is not that they, one, don't agree with us. Sometimes they do agree. They know that they fell short. It's just that when you bring it up, it's like a stab in my gut. Right. And so that defensiveness is so that I can protect my ego. My defensiveness is so I can save face, right? And at the core is I'm afraid of being exposed as not being good enough for you. All right. So when we see our partners become defensive, I want you to see what's underneath the surface. that maybe there's a fear, especially if it's defensiveness around a certain topic. It very well could be a fear that there's a fear linked to that particular situation, right? So I would start looking into, what is my partner afraid of? Are they afraid of letting me down? Are they afraid of not being seen as who they want to be for me? Because that could be driving their defensiveness. Okay, the next one. The next misunderstanding. When I say I need space, it doesn't mean that I want distance from you. Sometimes I need distance from my own thoughts. Sometimes I need to regulate before we can connect. Sometimes healthy space isn't always emotional withdrawal. I say that sometimes, first of all, knowing when you need space in a relationship is critical. If you don't know, because I think of it like the puffer fish. Everyone know what a puffer fish is, right? So puffer fishes look really cute and dainty when they're just swimming in the ocean, and then and then immediately when they get afraid or they feel danger, they puff up and their spikes come out, and their spikes are deadly, right? They can literally kill you. And so when I say I need space, sometimes it's hard for our partners to hear that because they just see the little cute dainty fish swimming around. They just see the cute version of us. They see the cuddly version of us. And so when we say that we need space, those, it feels like those spikes come out like, hey, we were just fine, right? I say that knowing when you need to take space in your relationship is emotionally responsible. Because knowing that I'm a puffer fish, right? If we're being honest, some of us, when our spikes come out, we are treacherous. Okay? Your mouth becomes unhinged. You say things that you don't mean. You go for the low blows. You become, this is how I describe it. You become a version of yourself that is hard to be in relationship with. Okay? So if I want to be in my relationship responsibly, it means that I have to know when I need to take a step back so that I can calibrate how I feel. Why? So my spikes don't come out on the people that I care about. So knowing when I need space and knowing how to communicate that is a vital part of being in a relationship. I think that most of us will need space at some time. We all need our own alone time. And how and the key is not waiting until it's critical or the stakes are high to communicate that. I think that that's where a lot of us go wrong. We are constantly elevating emotionally, and we wait and we wait and we wait to when we finally say we need space, it comes out in a way that's very rude, dismissive. I need to do this for me, right? It's very selfish. Because we waited until we were in an emotional space that we couldn't communicate accurately what we actually needed. Okay. Very good. Is this helping so far? Yes, you can rewatch this on my YouTube once after we finish going live. It will be up on my YouTube. All right. Um, Another one that I feel is especially in today's world, we see it all day, every day. When I become overly independent. All right, in the chat, have we dealt with somebody who is overly independent? Okay. When I become hyper independent, don't confuse my independence with the absence of my need for you. Sometimes the independence is what people have built after being disappointed. When people become hyper independent, it's because they have learned to rely on themselves because relying on other people hurt too much. So when you see your partner not asking for help, when you see your partner trying to do everything themselves, when you see your partner not being honest about how you can partner with them, their independence is not that they don't need you, or even that they don't want you to be there to help. Sometimes they don't know how to allow you to be there, not because you don't have the credentials or you're not capable, but because the fear of the disappointment is what they're trying to guard themselves from. Because if I allow you to come in and help me and you don't follow through, or you drop the ball, or you're inconsistent, it all comes back on me. Right. And so when we have partners who are overly independent, because it's not just women who, I know the big thing is women being overly independent nowadays. It's not just women who are hyper independent. Men are very much hyper independent just as much. They don't know how to accept help. Okay, I have had friends that I've tried to help them and I have to fight them to help them. Like, I'm going to help you. Right? They don't ask for help. They can be struggling and everything is on fire and they won't let nobody know. Right? So it's not just women who are hyper independent, there are men who are hyper independent as well. The thing about hyper independence, whether it's a man, a woman, or both people, it contradicts what a relationship is. A relationship is partnership, right? So hyper independence can damage a relationship simply because it doesn't allow the partnership to form on deeper levels. When I'm hyper independent, I form surface level partnerships, meaning I trust you only with the things that I'm willing to trust you with. So if you don't take the trash out, my world ain't gonna end. Right? So hyper independence stops those deeper levels of partnerships to form. Okay. When I ask a lot of questions, right? This is another thing that's misinterpreted. When I ask a lot of questions, it's not that I am trying to interrogate you. Sometimes clarity gives me safety. Okay. When your partner asks a lot of questions, especially if you are in the role of the leader in the relationship and you have people who are asking questions, right? Many times they're asking questions not to challenge you, not to, make you feel inferior. Many times they're asking questions because clarity and safety go hand in hand. And when our environment or journey together is in unpredictable situations, when we're in unpredictable situations, it very easily reminds us of being in chaos, right? And so we start asking, hey, 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 you know where we're going, right? Like you see that cliff over there? You know we running out of gas, right? And so we start asking questions because we need clarity to feel safe. And I think that's one of the burdens of the leader is that, we want to be able to just say, just hush up and trust me. But a part of trusting you is knowing that when I need clarity, I can go to you and get clarity. Okay. So sometimes asking a lot of questions is me trying to get clarity, not trying to challenge you. Okay. All right. Now there's a lot more that I can go into, but I'm running out of time. So here's what's underneath the conflict. All right. We've talked about how when someone says, I need space, it could be that they're emotionally overwhelmed. Um, when someone says, you never listen, most times they're trying to say that I don't feel understood by you. Okay. And you'll be like, I do listen to you. I just sit here and listen to you for an whole hour. Well, hearing my words and understanding my words are two different conversations. This is what I want you guys to see. It's not that, this is what I always say, it's not that people don't want to be in relationships. They don't know how to be in relationships. How do I hear your words and then get to the understanding of your words, not just physically hearing what you have to say? Right? So I want you guys to take away that there's always an underlining message being given by people's behavior, by what they do, and by what they want, by they don't do. There's two conversations happening at any given time: what you hear and what you don't hear. And we have to get better at translating messages appropriately. Okay, so how do we do that? That's what I want to go into now. All right. If you want the how, put your hand up in the chat. Give me an emoji. Give me something. Okay. If you guys are just joining, welcome. This is the Daily Fix. I do this every morning in my morning meetup community. I want you guys to join the Daily Fix because when you join, you get access to over 300 sessions that I have done in the Daily Fix, and I have covered every aspect of life. So I guarantee you, whatever you're struggling with today, I have already covered it. So when you join, you can go back and watch those sessions about relationships, about understanding yourself better, becoming more confident, how to deal with intimacy, how to deal with, difficult parenting parents that you may have. We have covered it all in the Daily Fix. Okay. Okay. So here's what we want to do. Here's the how behind it. All right. So we've talked about the what, we've talked about the why. Now let's talk about the how. To build connection in our relationships, especially when you know that there's a lot of miscommunication happening, we want to replace interrogating our partners with becoming truly curious about our partners. All right. So instead of asking what's wrong with you, instead of asking what's wrong with you, I want to give you guys a new question. Okay. I want you to ask them, help me understand what's happening inside of you right now. Okay. So if I see my partner has gone quiet, if I see that they're disconnected, I can come to them and say, what's going on with you? What's wrong? Or I can say, help me understand what you're feeling right now. Help me understand what you're thinking right now. Because that question takes the pressure off of them trying to explain their behavior. When I ask what's wrong with you, I'm asking for you to explain why you're acting this way. When I say, help me understand what's happening inside your thought, your mind, your heart, I'm asking you to show me how we got here. Okay? So it's one thing for us to talk about your behavior and I'm upset about how you behaved. Help me understand how we got to the thought process that that behavior was needed. How did you get to the fact that you couldn't trust me with your inner thoughts? How did you get to the fact that you had to push me away instead of lean in? I'm trying to understand how we got here. If I can understand how we got here, then we can have a conversation about real conflict resolution. Okay, so you didn't trust me that with that because you didn't think that I would hold your secret safe. Cool. You didn't trust me with that because you didn't think that you thought that I would see you differently if you told me the truth. If we understand how we got here, we can actually problem solve the real issue instead of just trying to correct behavior. Okay? Does that make sense? Mm, one of my favorite ones. So when you're having a conversation, and this is a big one for me because I think the way my brain operates, because another we talked about this last week, but a big part of us being able to be in connection is to know how we naturally um, get in the way of connection happening. I know that my brain is very solution focused, solution oriented. I find solutions quickly, right? So when we're in a conversation and we're problem solving, so easy for me to jump to the end of the conversation and I've already problem solved 5 different ways that we can fix this and I haven't even allowed you to tell me what the full problem is. I know my brain works like Legos, like everything snaps together. And as you're talking, and this is why I'm great at my job. This is why I am able to do what I do at the way that I do it, how quickly I do it, right? That works great in my job. It does not work well in relationships. It just doesn't, right? So this is a perfect example of how some skills that you have translate well in your profession, they do not translate well in your love life. They just don't, right? So one of the questions I got good at asking was that when someone would explain to me the problem or the issue that we were having, I would ask them, tell me what you hope that I understood about this, right? Because many times, my takeaway from a conversation can be very different from your takeaway of a conversation, right? What is it that you hope that I understood about this conversation is for me, I'm asking you to tell me what part of this situation is the most important to you so that I can understand because like I said, I can walk away thinking that this part is important and you walked away thinking that this other part is important. We walked away not on the same page. So the question is, help me understand what part of this do you hope I understood? Or I will ask, what part of this do you think that I am missing? Right? So if we're especially when you get into a point where the conversation is going in circles, I will ask, okay, what part of this do you think I'm missing? Because I think I'm hearing you. I think I see what the issue is, but clearly you don't feel that way. Help me understand. What do you think I'm missing? Okay. Asking them, what does this situation represent for you? Okay. So if you got defensive because I was on the phone late at night with a male friend, what does this situation represent for you? Does it represent that I'm not trustworthy? Does it represent something that happened in your past? Does it represent something that that didn't have to do with me? Right? I always tell the story when my younger years, I was dating and I went out on a date with, I had been dating this guy for a while, like it was a few months, right? So we had built up rapport. We, were connected with one another. We had great conversations. This person went out of town, came back, and we were like, oh, we met, out of town. We missed you so much. You're back, right? And so this was supposed to be our reunion of them coming back. And they were like, well, let's go to the movies. And so I was like, okay, cool. I was going to meet him there. So I'm getting dressed to meet him, makeup, hair, nails, all that type of stuff. And in the midst of me getting dressed, I set my phone down, walked away, didn't think anything of it. When it's time for me to go, I can't find my phone. Right. And so I'm searching for my phone. The last conversation that I had with him was, hey, I'm getting ready to leave the house now. I'll call you when I'm parked. Can't find my phone. So this is delaying me, right? I'm looking everywhere. I'm looking everywhere for this phone. Can't find my phone. It took me maybe 15 minutes to find my phone. And by the way, my phone is always on silent. So even if you're calling or texting me, most times I'm not going to get it. So phone is ringing. I mean, well, yeah, I think he called me a few times, but I cannot find the phone. By the time I found the phone, I had set the phone on a shelf. It had fallen off the shelf and it fell into a boot. I, to this day, I believe it was God that orchestrated that because it was so perfect. It fell off of the shelf into a shoe to where I couldn't see it. Finally, get the phone. I get in my car. I'm driving there, and I'm like, "Hey!" I called him. And when he answered the phone, he answered very dry. So I already knew. That there was something brewing, right? And I said, "Hey, I lost my phone. I'm on my way there. I'm about 10 minutes out. I'll be there. In my head, everything's gonna be fine. We're good. I'll be a little late, but I'm getting there." And so he was like, "Okay, whatever." And I was like, "Okay." I said, I hear the tone of your voice. I said, I understand that you could be upset. I was like, but I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't leave my house without my phone. So not sure what you want me to do with that, right?" And so he's like, "Okay, it's fine. We'll talk when we get there." And so we get off that phone call, and me being me, I have noticed a shift, and I'm already determined to have a good night. So I'm like, okay, Brittany, he's allowed to be upset. He's allowed to be, disappointed, but it's okay. We can turn this night around. You deal with difficult people for a profession. You can turn this around, right? So I put on my good attitude. I got my affirmations going. I walk in, he sees me, and then he looks the other way. And I said, oh, oh, let me say something. One of my protection factors. Don't treat me like you don't want me there. If you ever want to never hear from me again, treat me like my presence is common. Treat me like you're not appreciative for me being somewhere. You ain't got to ever worry about Brittany Noel ever again. And so he turns his head the other way. And I approach him like, hey, good afternoon. And our it was a very cold interaction. So it was so cold, it was ice cold. So cold that we walked into the wrong movie theater. We sat down, we're not talking to each other. We sat down, we're looking at the movie theater, and I'm trying to like do my own internal dialogue, like Brittany, like, okay, what are we doing here? Right. We realize that we're in the wrong movie theater. So we get up and we walk out. And by this time, he's trying to correct. He's like, listen, let's just get the later movie because clearly by this time we're halfway, we're very late for the movie. He's like, let's just go and talk. Long story short, we go talk, and what comes out of this is that his reaction to me being late or not answering my phone when he was calling me was that it must mean that I was going to stand him up, right? Now, again, I had been talking to this person for months. I had never stood him up before. I had never given you a reason to think I would stand you up. And the last conversation we had, I was telling you I'm getting in the car, I'm on my way. Right? So he interpreted me not answering the phone as she's gonna stand me up. Now, why did he feel this way? Because this had happened to him before, right? So my thought process was, that doesn't make sense because none of my behavior never said that I would do that. I never gave you an idea to think that that was my character, all this type of stuff. So the breakdown of that communication was, I don't understand how you could accuse me of something or think something of me when I'm giving you no reason to think that. The reason why that was a breakdown is because I'm looking at it from my point of view, right? My point of view is the last conversation you heard from me was that I was getting in my car and I'm on my way. When you didn't hear from me, I would have thought that you would have been concerned. Did something happen while she was driving? Did she get a flat tire? Did she get in a wreck? That was my thought process. So I'm like, well, why wasn't your reaction to be worried? Instead, you thought poorly of me, right? And so I'm offended because you would even think that of me. Right? And so I asked him, I said, help me understand. I said, there's something I'm trying to understand here. Help me understand how we went from being cool and cordial, enjoying one another, enjoying each other's presence, being excited to see each other in a span of 15 minutes of me not being available on my phone. Explain to me how that 15 minutes puts you in a mindset of scarcity and fear. Help me understand that. Right? And that's how we were able to talk through some stuff, right? And I'm telling you, this is why hard conversations are important because it really was a hard conversation because he had been triggered and then his triggering triggered me. Right? And so now we're both emotionally elevated and still expected to have a conversation. Right? This is where I want us to realize that having emotions about any situation does not negate the fact that we still need to be able to communicate in a healthy way. Here's the thing, the only way that we can communicate in a healthy way is if you have your own internal boundaries. This is why I'm very big on dismantling these ideas and beliefs that because we feel a certain way, we're allowed to act a certain way. Even though I was frustrated with him, I had to still treat him to a certain level of care, compassion, concern, and respect. Not because he deserved it or demanded, but because that's who I say I am, that I choose to be this person who still operates with a certain character, even when something breaks down. I choose how I want to show up, right? So, the first part of having a healthy connection with the people that we love is not about defining those people. It's about defining ourselves. Who do I want to be in this relationship? How do I want to handle conflict? How do I want to handle when things break down? Who do I want to be when my feelings get hurt? Who do I want to be when I feel misunderstood? When you have defined all of that, then we can come into the partnership and say, okay, when act a certain way, behave a certain way, I'm allowed to be upset, confused, concerned, angry, but I'm not allowed to treat you a certain way, right? So even when he gave me the cold shoulder on the phone, I still said, okay, Brittany, but you're going to go in with a good attitude. You're going to be smiling. You're going to be loving. You're going to be vulnerable. You're going to be all of that. I still decided to be me, even when he was not being him. Does that make sense? Okay. So say this to say that there's always going to be disconnects with the people that we love, period. Because we all have different experiences. We were all raised in different households. We all come from different backgrounds, different belief systems. We have different levels of maturity. We have different levels of skill sets. We're never coming into any connection where the other person has it all together or you have it all together. And the people that you care about the most are always going to expose where you have the most to grow. Period. So the more you like somebody, that person's going to show you where you need to grow the most. Okay. And this is why I always tell people there's only so much healing that you can do while you're single. Because once you go into a relationship, that relationship is going to expose the parts of you that could not grow until you were in a relationship. Okay? There's always a plot twist. So here's my takeaway for you guys for today. I need you guys to start asking yourselves, right? When I'm in communication with the people that I care about, what are the conversations that are happening right now? Their behavior is giving you a language. Their need is the message. So in that situation I gave you guys, what he needed from me was reassurance, right? What he needed from me was not for me to say, how could you think that of me? Like, I'm not that kind of person. He didn't need me to prove to him I was a good person. Our track record had already proven to him that I'm a good person. So he didn't need for me to prove that I was a good person. He needed reassurance that I still wanted him. He needed in that moment. This is why I say reassurance is not a gender thing, it's not a woman thing. Men need reassurance too. That in that moment, me not being available for 15 minutes, and again, in my brain, I don't understand it, right? But we're not operating, it's not in a relationship, it's not our goals to understand all the same things, it's to try to understand each other. So the goal wasn't for me to be like, oh yeah, I can see why you felt that way. No, I'm actually not somebody who would stand anybody up, right? But it wasn't my that what he didn't need for me to prove that I was a good person. He needed me to prove that I still wanted him or reassure him that I still wanted him. That's what he needed in that moment, right? And I would love to say that I was willing to give him that, and I don't think I was. I don't think I was. I think that conversation came later between us, but by the time that conversation came, I had saw other sides of him that I was like, I don't think I want this. I don't think I want this because again, one of my own boundaries is that even when I'm emotionally triggered, it is my goal, it is my highest form of integrity is to still treat people like I love them, even when I don't feel like I love them. Right. So even when you upset me or you disappoint me, that I'm still held accountable for how I handle you. And that was something that he did not value. That was our breaking point. Because I don't care how mad you are at me, you don't have a right to treat me any kind of way. Okay. So because that was my value and that was not a value that he shared, that was ultimately why I was like, that's not gonna work for me. Right. So the takeaway is to try to remove ourselves from looking at the behavior and ask ourselves, what do they need? What is this behavior trying to accomplish? When protective behaviors come out, it's because they're trying to protect themselves from something. What do they need? What do they think they need protection from? And can I play a role in helping them achieve that? I'm not giving them protection. I'm playing whatever role I'm supposed to play to help them feel more safe and secure in our connection. Okay. So connection will happen when we stop arguing, right? And start to talk long enough to understand the true messages and what it is that we're saying. Okay. I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you're just now joining, this is the Daily Fix. This is the morning meetup community that I host every morning, and we want you to join the tribe. Now, when you join, you get a 50% discount if you're a new member. So there's no reason for you not to join. Okay, your first month is 50% off. You can be a part of all of these conversations, and you can go back to previous conversations where you'll be able to dive into the parts or go straight to the sections that you need the most. So when you join, you'll be able to get the table of contents. You can read through the table of contents and go to the exact section that you need right now. So if you know you're working on relationships, you can go to the relationship section. If you're working on confidence, if you're working on intimacy, if you're working on purpose, trying to live out in your purpose, trying to be a better leader, we have sections on all of that. All right. The Daily Fix is probably the easiest way that you can put in, an investment and actually get a return on your investment. That's just my take, okay? So I want you guys to have an amazing, amazing Tuesday. All right. And your homework today, Mike, I want you guys to look for ways to connect today, okay, with somebody that you love and care about. Can I exercise hearing the larger message? Right. So when the coworker comes in complaining about, there wasn't any parking outside, and it's too hot outside. Maybe the complaint is wrapped up in they just need to be heard or be seen or whatever it is, right? But I just want to find a way to connect with the people around me to hear the greater messages. So not just hear the words, but actually understand what's driving the words. That's when you get the full message. Okay. So have an amazing Tuesday. Okay. I will be back tomorrow with you guys to have another amazing conversation. And if you want to rewatch this, go to my YouTube, Brittany Noel, and you'll be able to watch this and take